government is betting big on infrastructure, making it a top priority as we enter the Amrit Kal. On February 1, the interim budget 2024 was unveiled, and the finance minister announced an 11.1% increase in capex for financial year 25. This means 11.11 lakh crore will be allocated to develop infrastructure projects, which is double the amount from 10 years ago. Key sectors like railways, road transport and highways have already used up to 85% of their budget in the first 9 months of FY24. Now, to keep up with this focus on infrastructure, the centre has also extended the Smart Cities mission under the Urban Union Development Ministry until March 31 next year. The integration of advanced technologies in infrastructure development is revolutionizing the way we build, manage and maintain our cities and facilities. Infratech is a growing field that encompasses smart infrastructure, digital twins, IoT, AI and other cutting-edge technologies to improve efficiency, sustainability and resilience. Hello and a very warm welcome to ET Studios NextGen Infra in association with ET Infra. I'm your host Hemanshi Tewari. Now today for this special episode, which is our inaugural episode, we are joined in by two gentlemen. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Manvendra Deswal, who is a former head of Smart Cities Mission at CII. He's wearing a lot of hats. He's also DDG at EPTA. He's founder CEO at I2L. Thank you, Dr. Manvendra, for joining us today. Also, we are joined in by Mr. Raghav Gupta, who is a Managing Director at Jakson Infra. Raghav, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, gentlemen, we are talking about the smart infrastructure today. We are talking about the infratech today. About the upcoming budget, when we are talking about the upcoming budget, there are a lot of hopes, there are a lot of predictions that there will be an increased infrastructure capex in the budget, and there has been a little increase when it comes to our interim budget also, right? So when it comes to smart infrastructure, gentlemen, when it comes to smart cities, what constitute smart cities? What constitutes smart infrastructure? Like, if you can give an overview to kind of set the context, maybe we'll start with you, Dr. Manvendra.
So, smartness is built around the concepts of livability and sustainability. And this becomes especially important for a developing country like India, which has a huge urban population, which is expected to add some more 400 million by 2050. And if we add some roughly 100 million, which live adjacent to the 70 most developed cities in the country. So, it is very important that we address the concept of livability. And to sustainability becomes important because we have to utilize our resources efficiently. Prime Minister Modi in 2023 has committed that we will decarbonize sooner than most of the world. So that is why this concept of smart infrastructure in cities becomes very important.
All right, thank you for that perspective. Now, Raghav, from the private sector perspective, like what are your views on like where we are today when it comes to smart infrastructure and how the evolution has happened over the past few years?
So in the last 10 years, we have gone from being a very primitive infrastructure base to understanding what smart infra really means. Smart infra is basically a cyber physical space where technologies like IoT, like AI, like big computing, big data space computing is all put together to increase the efficiency, sustainability, productivity or safety of that infrastructure. So this as a concept is being imbibed across all domains of infrastructure today. And if you see, you look at healthcare, AI is helping understand diagnostics better. If you look at agriculture, AI is helping understanding how we can increase our crop yield. For that matter, even automate harvesting as well. In the finance sector, essentially what they're using AI or smart infrastructure is for early detection of fraud and understanding how we can increase investor return.
All All right, all right. So, like you are part of the energy transmission sector. Like you look at that sector, you look at the railways sector. So we have a really good integration at this panel when it comes to smart infrastructure. But on that point, I want to know from both of you, like both of your perspectives, on the basis of your industries, like what sort of technologies are impactful today when it comes to the smart infrastructure? Let's start.
So in transmission, for example, drones are playing a very big role, and you know that in terms of topography, I mean we are a very diverse country. So we have northeast, which is like heavily vegetated.
Yeah.
We have Leh and Ladakh now, which for obvious strategic reasons has become very important. But it is a lot of it is like a frozen desert. Then we obviously have South India and western parts. So drones are playing a very critical role in sort of assessing where the damage is, how can it be corrected at the earliest and at the lowest cost also. And a very important thing that is coming is role is being played by IoT. So there are a lot of IoT devices which are being installed on the transmission lines, and so which tell in advance that the wind speed which is going to come and the damage that it might cause. So so that the different players can take the corrective measures in advance.
All right. So, Raghav, how these technologies and maybe more work for your sector, work for the railways infrastructure?
So if I had to talk about railways specifically, and we talk about what Doctor said about IoT, IoT is nothing but a network of interconnected devices. So the way railway uses is to attach sensors at different areas, different domains, to improve safety, to improve signaling, and to also ensure that the passengers are getting to their end destination on time. So that's a big use of IoT and railways.
Railways has this under Center for Railway Information System, CRIS. So they are in the process of implementing their homegrown IoT platform. They're calling it Niyantrak. The abbreviation is like it's very long to expand. So they've already done 1.0, and they are in the process of implementing 2.0, and all the stations across the country will be linked with one app. So anybody can see that. So just to give you one example, they have this concept of 70-30 lighting. So when the train is not coming on the platform, 30% of the lights are on, and when any train is about to come to the platform, so 70% of the lights are on at that point of time, and when the train departs the platform, then again it's switches. So this is a means of energy efficiency and also taking care of security.
All right, wonderful. That was a great example, Dr. Manvendra. But also, I want to understand from you both gentlemen, like when it comes to the interplay between these kind of technologies, how can we actually create a cohesive smart infrastructure ecosystem? And also now government has extended the timeline for smart cities mission as well, right? So it means that we weren't able to complete that sort of target at the dedicated point of time. So where we are now, and what are those kind of challenges when it comes to these technologies or implementing such kind of missions?
Yeah, okay. So I'll give it a shot. So their challenges are galore. I mean, there are a lot of challenges, and it was never the case that, at least to the best of my knowledge, so NIUA is the implementing arm of government for all these schemes. So NIUA had been working very closely with Ministry of Urban Development, and now it's got a new nomenclature now.
Yeah.
So they're working very closely, and ever since the mission head has come, so they've moved on very quickly. So they've realized that the key challenges to this smartness was lack of knowledge, lack of knowledge across the board. So in terms for administrators, for elected representatives, for civil society, for industry, so everybody was on a different trajectory also. Second was a resistance to change. Okay, so there was you can imagine that urban is a state subject.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot of resistance to change from the cities.
Because you need to change the mindset first and then kind of work at implementing.
Yeah. So what the ministry has done over last I think 5-6 years or so is that they've tried to bridge all these gaps. So there are few things that I'm going to say and which are doing their bit. So one is NULP, National Urban Learning Platform. So this operates on something which the ministry calls as a quadruple helix model. So they have identified 4 key stakeholders, as I said: citizens, government, academia, and industry. So all these 4 people are contributing. So there are online platforms, there are courses. So just to give you a concrete example. So for example, let's say city of Warangal feels that its officials need to learn a bit more about water. So they can go to that platform, they can register themselves, they can and get enrolled in the course. That course can be offered by MIT, by any of the IIMs, or any of. I mean, it's the sky is the limit. So
Yeah.
NULP is a game changer.
Yeah, bridging the skill gap.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we need you can say optimally capacitated institutional.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, a lot of it in the contemporary times is personality driven.
Yeah.
So you have somebody who is more enterprising, so the department does well, that guy gets transferred, and they get transferred like
we are seeing now that soft skills are huge. If you have hard skills, of course you can come up to some level, but if you have soft skills, you're gonna reach far. That is the scenario as of now.
Yeah. Of course, yes. That training, and especially for civic officials, which are the point of contact. So that is a big thing. So there is another thing which ministry has undertaken. This is called National Urban Innovation Stack. Okay. Yeah. So this is hosted under Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and it is all open source data. Okay. So cities can exchange. They can see what the other city has done. Which was the original objective of smart cities. See, if I can just dwell a minute. So even though the BJP manifesto in 2014 said that we'll create 100 new cities, by the time Prime Minister Modi came to power in 2014, so government did a lot of homework, and in 2015 when the mission was launched, so the idea was that one part of the city will be made smart. Yeah. And then that would be amplified across the city. And cities which have more or less same parameters in terms of geography and demography, they can then replicate it. So this was how it was supposed to spread. Yeah. But somehow the way it was marketed and the way it was presented, and most importantly the way it was received, it was as if 100 smart cities will be created and it will happen overnight. So it is basically the government is doing what it had said for itself, that how can you ease the data exchange, how can you learn from each other. Yeah. All these things are done. Yeah. Now what the central government cannot do is that, for example, you send somebody for training, we can send that person to maybe a MIT or a UN or a World Bank training program, and that training program may be in sewage management. So that fellow comes back and she or he is transferred to, let's say, a transport department in next 2 weeks. So it means that all that training is useless. Yeah. So that is something that the rules and regulations that have to come from the city and the state level.
Yeah, that is the difference between the policy framework and on the ground issues that are happening.
Yes.
Yeah. On that note, Raghav, I would like to know from your perspective, like you were talking about some 2-3 projects that Jakson Infra is doing, like Pune, Bhubaneswar, and there's one more city. So if you can talk about those projects and how are you these projects are contributing to the smart infrastructure, and they are actually smart that we are talking about.
Yeah, so now the way we see smart infrastructure is not only just enhancing what we have, but it's actually to inculcate technologies that make it smart. Like if you look at data centers all across India, we are looking at data centers as a very viable business opportunity now. So all across India, the outlay on data centers is about to increase almost 3.5 times in next 2 years, right? That's the estimation. And this is primarily driven by the stacks of data that is being created by this smart infra all around us, right? So it's a clear indicator of how we're going to go towards building a much more smarter world around us in the future. And Jakson is just capitalizing on that wave. We are building hospitals that are platinum rated hospitals today. We are building transmission and distribution lines that are ADMS based transmission and distribution lines that are powered by SCADA, that are geolocated so that preventive maintenance can happen on time, so that we can make sure that downtime is not happening. So a lot of work is happening across domains.
All right, but if we talk from the industry perspective, like from a macro point of view, Raghav, so what do you think, like when it comes to smart infrastructure, where we are in terms of the mindset, in terms of the change mindset that even you were talking about, right? Because it's not only about being tech savvy, right? It's about utilizing the right technology at right places and just not, throwing technology here and there. So where we are when it comes to that.
So what Doctor talked about is expertise and resistance to change. But one big challenge is also interportability of different systems to come to each other, right? Different infrastructures use different sets of data, different algorithms, different outputs. So all of it to come together and make sense in a single bucket is very difficult, right? So that's also a big challenge that we are facing today.
All right. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just saying that one of the reasons why it was expected that a lot of companies, especially the foreign expertise, will flow in once the smart infrastructure kicks in. Why it hasn't happened at the level is that because talking about the resistance to change, the way we are raised up as a society, so somehow it is given we are given to believe that all these amenities are to be used free of cost.
Yeah.
Okay, so and especially this issue that the freebies which are being loaded, so it raises a lot of minds in the lot of doubts in the minds of the potential investors. I mean, whether they should come in, and they have been, without taking names, there have been instances in South India that some new capital city was started with a lot of bang, a lot of thing happened, and the regime changed, and the old regime scrapped everything, and everything was. So this is something else I just wanted to highlight.
Yeah, of course. On that note, Raghav, I want to talk about the role of public and private partnerships. Like you both have been talking about the policy framework, which is very well required when it comes to implementing or kind of executing these kinds of products, the support that we need from the government. So when it comes to public-private partnership, what kind of partnerships are you looking at, when it comes to executing such kinds of smart infrastructure projects, and what's the difference between the actual policy framework that we require from the government and also the on-ground challenges that we face?
Yeah, so PPP is a new wave, that India is hit with. If you look at PPP, it's actually a win-win model. The way I see it, it only depends on what kind of revenue generation assumptions that we are taking, right? So if you look at a new aged infrastructure like ropeways, for example, right? So in wherever there is a tourist city or maybe in the hills, there is a need for a ropeway infrastructure. Now in this case, the government has so many other priorities where putting in money in ropeways may not make sense, but for a private company like us, investing in ropeways in a commercial area where there is high footfall, where alternate mobility is a use case application, it's a wonderful investment, right? So PPP will drive new age technologies where it's not a priority for the government, but it makes commercial sense for private people, for private entities.
All right, all right. Now, as we are wrapping up this episode, we have spoken a lot about technologies, different sort of technologies and how they can be implemented, the policy framework, the challenges, the advantages, a lot has been talked about in this panel. But as we wrap up, what are those future trends that you both see when it comes to the smart infrastructure space?
So one of the things that is going to change, and that we are already seeing being changed, is that earlier for quite some time, cities, especially in Indian perspective, were seen to be a byproduct of industrialization, just like in the Western world. But that has changed a lot. We are ourselves, cities are proven sources of economic growth, of GDP, of employment, and the voter base also. Yeah. So there is no taking away from that. So the one is that perspective has rapidly changed. And secondly, as Raghav mentioned rightly, there's a lot of focus. This COVID pandemic, for example, it brought a lot of focus back on health. And so there's a new acronym. I mean, not new, but there's an acronym going around WASH. So we're talking about water, we're talking about agriculture, we're talking about sewage, we're talking about health. So this is something that is going to pick more and more. So there are a lot of cities which have taken, which have introduced IoT-based solutions. To for sewage management, for waste collection, for improving quality of air, for hygiene, public restrooms and things like that. So I'm saying that so this is another second thing. And third thing which is going to change is that a lot of it for quite some time since independence. So policy formulation was top driven. People will consultants would sit with the commissioner or the city planner or somebody like that. And then they would chart out, this is where the highway is, the flyover is going to come from, this is where the underpass is going to come from, this is what is going to be done. But what the Smart City mission has done is that there's a lot of bottom-up pressure. Okay. And there's a lot of, because the way this whole scheme was designed was that, individuals will have to be taken into consultation, and whatever the majority says will be implemented. So that these are the three things which I see that are going to, so, and as we see that, we are one of the few countries in the world which is still enjoying demographic dividend.
Yeah.
It starts going down by 2030, some reports say. So there's going to be a lot of pressure from the young population, educated population, to change the quality of life.
All right.
I think Doctor has covered a lot of areas. Just to add to it, what I see is now as the infrastructure is upgrading itself and there's a lot of repository of data that is available, private companies or big conglomerates are going to go after it because it's going to be the new oil. Understanding data, comprehending it, getting meaningful insights from it, and creating actionable derivatives is how we're going to progress to this new world that Doctor just talked about.
All right, and as we are marching towards Viksit Bharat, I think the harnessing these sort of technologies will kind of drive the whole thing faster, right? On that note, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you for having that conversation with us. To our viewers, stay tuned for more such videos as we bring you more insights on smart infrastructure only at ET Studios, NextGen Infra in association with ET Infra.